Howdy y'all, I'm Old Norse Specialist Dr. Jackson Crawford. I'm back today to conclude the saga of Egill Skalla-Grímsson, one of Old Norse literature's most notorious poets and bad boys. Now anyone who watched my series of videos on Njál's saga knows that the sagas are full of relationships much more convoluted than we typically tolerate in our modern novels and TV shows. And when we last left Egill, he had fought a duel to defend the niece of his friend Arnbjorn in place of Arnbjorn's nephew. Now, Egill makes his way to the home of someone named Atli. Now, Atli is the brother of Berg-Onundur, who is the one that Egill had previously fought with on the island where Berg-Onundur was protecting Eiríkur Bloodex's son Rognvald. And Berg-Onundur had taken as his own all of the inheritance from the parents of Egill's wife Osgerður. Egill had insisted that this was in fact also partially his and his wife's, and so the two men had fought. Now this Atli, Berg-Onundur's brother, has taken all of that just as Berg-Onundur had before him. So Egill goes to Atli and says he wants his half. Well, Atli is astonished when this man Egill shows up at his door demanding part of his inheritance. After all, Egill should be there to offer him compensation for his brother, right? Egill ends up subpoenaing Atli, and they wind up in court. And the case does not go Egill's way, so naturally Egill challenges Atli to a duel. This is something you can do in the legal system of the sagas. If a court case isn't going your way, you say, hey, fight me in a duel, and that is also a legally acceptable resolution to the case. Now the duel's arranged, and a bull is brought to the dueling ground, the designated place to be slaughtered by the victor, apparently in an act of sacrifice to the gods. Now, there's a fierce sword-to-sword fight. Egill hacks Atli's shield to pieces, but Atli keeps coming at Egill, chopping with the sword in both hands, and every time Egill gets in a blow at Atli, Atli seems unharmed. So Egill concludes that Atli must be a wizard. He must be using his magic to dull Egill's blade and or to make himself impervious to steel. Much like the evil figure that Gunnlaugr fights in England in the Saga of Gunnlaug Wormtongue. Now, remembering that Atli was rumored to be proficient in magic, Egill throws down his sword and leaps upon Atli like a mountain lion on an elk and bites his throat out. Naturally, he has a poem for the occasion. Betat nu sos brugdun, blor dragvandil randir, af tvít eggjar döfði, Atli fram en skammi, nöytak avs vid uti, ormolgastan hjorva, jaksel bróður lett auða, ek bara af sauði, náðum. The sword I drew, blue-bladed Dragvandil, didn't bite his shield because Atli the Short dulled its edges. I took advantage of my strengths against that man, foolish of speech. I let my teeth destroy him. Then I killed the animal, of course. And sure enough, Egill also kills the bull. He grabs it by the horns, twisting it around and throwing it, and this kills it. So Egill still has fantastic strength. So now Egill has won all the property in Norway that he has been fighting for so long. And what does he do? He goes back to Iceland. He's content to own it, apparently, not necessarily to live on it. He and Osgerður have numerous children. We'll come back to that because the story does not dwell in Iceland too much till Egill is about to die. And many years pass, and Egill hears that Eiríkur Bloodaxe has died, and that his buddy Arnbjorn has thus gone back to Norway. So Egill goes to Norway to visit him. He gets mopey again. Arnbjorn asks him why again. Remember the previous time it was because he had a crush on his brother's widow. This time it turns out that yet another random relative Bergonundur and Atli have seized the lands that Egill wants for his own. He goes, or no, he doesn't go. Arnbjorn goes to King Håkon the Good, because of course Håkon doesn't like Egill. it's hard to like Egill. But Egill did kill his nephew. Arnbjorn goes to Håkon the Good to ask him if he would intercede on Egill's behalf. Håkon says no. He seems offended that Arnbjorn would think he's the kind of person who'd do a favor for Egill anyway. Egill is upset, but Arnbjorn pays him the full value of these lands, remembering that it was Egill who defended his niece from the berserker. This makes Egill happy, and for a while we hear that Arnbjorn and Egill raid together in Frisia. Alright. The next really interesting episode in Egill's saga, and here Egill is in his mature years, is he's still in Norway, and he hears that Håkon the Good is having trouble collecting taxes in wild, distant Värmlands province. This is now part of Sweden, but at the time part of Norway, subject to Norway. His tax collectors keep going to Värmlands and not coming back. They get killed. So Egill volunteers to go on the next tax collecting mission to Värmland, and 8 men are assigned to the job with him by Håkon, and Egill also brings 3 men. They set off on the snowy track to Värmland, but at night Egill and his 3 men are abandoned by the men sent by Håkon. In a bad blizzard, Egill and his men make their way to the farm of a man named Ormodr, who is astonished they were able to travel in this weather. But he, of course, has them in. Hospitality is the central center of the culture. He offers them dinner, but he acts very put out about not having any ale or good food to serve them. This may make you think of an incident in Egill's much younger life. But a very young girl, Ormodr's daughter, comes up and whispers in Egill's ear at the dinner table and tells him that, in fact, there is beer. Egill is offended. The man slaps his daughter, says, "You always say the worst thing." But of course now his secret's out. He has to bring out the beer. And Egill, of course, has a poem for the occasion. I have made a lame attempt at translating this into something that sounds like an English language drinking song, so forgive me for that. Drekkum thot Egills auk riður berri tíðum horna sundat hendi, hvert full bragar ulli, Leivig väter thot lauva, lekstörir mer fyri, hrosta tjorni horn till dags at morni. Notice the rhyme at the end there. That's very unusual in Old Norse. Oh, I'll drink it all down till the man comes around 100 more times with the horn in his hand. If you want the ale gone, I'm your man. Oh, I won't leave a drop, and I never will stop till the sun tops the ridge in the morning. So my ungenerous hosts, this is your final warning. That's my lame attempt at making it sound like a drinking song. Inspired by Egill's own end rhyme. Anyway, Egill drinks every last drop in this guy's house and starts to feel a little bit sick. So he walks up to this guy, spreads his mouth open and vomits into his mouth, which of course makes Ormodr himself vomit, and so we get this disgusting back and forth of vomit between the 2 men. Well, Egill falls asleep. It's probably a gentle way of putting it. And in the morning, he breaks into Ormodr's bed, opens the door to the bed closet, and pulls him out, says, "I ought to kill you for saying that you didn't have any beer, even though you did." His wife and daughter beg Egill not to kill him, so Egill says, "Well, fine, I won't." But he still pops one of Ormodr's eyes out and rips his beard off. Egill is not a man that you want to be inhospitable to. So, next, Egill is shown hospitality by another farmer, and this man has a daughter who is lying in bed sick. This is Egill's second of 2 altruistic actions. Egill asks what's wrong with the girl. They say, "Well, we don't know." And he says, "Well, has anyone tried anything with regard to her illness?" And the farmer Thorfinnur says, "Well, runes have been carved." Well, Egill goes and he looks over the bed that the girl's been sleeping in. They take her out of the bed, and he finds a piece of whalebone with runes on it. Egill reads them, and he scrapes them off and pushes them into the fire. Then he burns the whole piece of whalebone, and then he has the sheets aired in the wind. And he says this poem, one of his most famous. Skallat madr runa rista, nema roða vel kunni. That verður morgum manni es of myrkvansta villisk. Sak all telgðu togni, tíu launsta vi ristna. That hefur lauka lindi, langs overtrega fengit. You ought not to carve runes unless you know them well. It happens to many carvers that they make an error. I saw, carved on a whalebone, 10 coded letters. It has caused the woman a long illness. So it turns out that a local boy had wanted to make the girl fall in love with him, and he had carved what he thought was a love spell, but instead carved a spell that made her sick. So Egill carves a new runic inscription with a spell that actually heals her, and the next morning, after sleeping in bed with that under her pillow, the girl is just fine. Well, Egill does eventually confront the Jarl, or local ruler of Värmland. He picks up the taxes that he's there to get, and he starts heading back on the path to Nidaros, Trondheim, the old capital of Norway, to deliver the taxes to Håkon the Good. Well, along the way, he's ambushed by 14 men, and Egill does not have any armor on at the time. So Egill ends up famously taking a large boulder, strapping it to his chest, and fighting with that as armor. And in this fashion, he kills 11 of his 14 attackers. Egill is nothing if not colorful. I mean, this really would make kind of a neat movie when you get down to it. All right. So Egill delivers the taxes to Håkon, finally has a decent relationship with the Norwegian king, and heads back to Iceland to his family there. Now, Egill has 3 sons with his wife Åsgerður in Iceland. Bolvar, Gunnar, and Thorstein. Egill doesn't like Thorstein very much, and we're actually told that this has to do with the fact that Thorstein is a decent man who gets along with everybody. But Egill loves Bolvar, and unfortunately Bolvar drowns at sea. And about the same time, Egill's son Gunnar dies too. I don't think we're even told how he dies, but he's clearly more upset about Bolvar. Egill is so upset that he decides he's going to starve himself. He goes into his bed closet, closes it in on himself, closes himself inside with no food or drink. Until at some point in this process, his daughter Þorgerður knocks on the door and asks to be let in. And he lets her in. She says, "You know, Dad, I want to starve myself to death in mourning for my brothers as well." And he says, "Good girl, good girl." And as they're sitting there in the darkness inside this bed closet, he hears her chewing something hard, and he says, "What are you doing?" And she says, "Oh, I'm eating dried seaweed." And he says, "Is it bad for you?" She says, "Oh, very bad for you. It's very miserable." And he says, "Oh, good, then I need some of that while I'm in my period of excessive mourning." So he starts drinking some of the seaweed. And then he hears her take a gulp and says, "Oh, what's that?" She says, "Oh, it's water. I'm just wetting the whistle after eating that nasty dry stuff." And he says, "Oh, let me have some of that." And it turns out it is milk in a horn. And so his efforts to starve himself are set back to 0 because he has consumed milk. At this point, Þorgerður admits that she has tricked her father, but says that what he needs to do, instead of starving himself, is compose a poem in memory of his sons. And Egill does this, and this is another of his famous long poems, Sona Torek, I Lost My Sons. This is in chapter 79. It's also quite long. Let me give you a taste with just the first stanza. Mjok trekt, tungu at hræra, eða loftvætt ljóð pundara. Essa nu vänligt og vidr stuvi, ne hågdrækt or hugar fylksni. It is very hard to move my tongue. The scales of poetry are hard to pick up. It is not a light matter now, trying what Odin stole, nor is it easy to carry my heart's burden. What Odin stole is, of course, poetry from the story of Odin stealing Odrir, the meat of poetry. And of course, this is another instance where we see that Egill is much more emotional in his poetry than most Old Norse poets. I think of his poem for his brother Thorolfr too. He is willing to kind of give you a first-person insight into emotions that are something other than just straight-up Drengskaper, and that's pretty unusual. At some point, Arnbjorn dies. Egill hears of this and composes a poem for him as well, Arnbjarnarkvida. Egill also befriends some other young skalds in Iceland. He becomes something of a mentor figure to some of them, including Einar Skólaglam, Einar Tinkling Scales, one of the famous poets in the retinue of Håkon Jarl, different from Håkon the Good. Really, his skaldic poem, Vellekla, Lack of Gold, deserves its own video someday if I can get the time to translate that long thing. There's an interesting scene where Einar Skólaglam has come back from Norway, and he leaves a beautiful shield at Egill's house when he stops by Egill's place on his way back to his place and finds Egill's not there. Egill comes home, finds the shield, asks someone who's at the house where this came from, and they say, "Oh, Einar left that for you as a gift." And he says, "That bastard, I'm going to kill him." Because he left this here to make me make a poem about this shield. He rides after Einar, can't catch him, and decides to compose a poem about the shield anyway. So Egill is an unpredictable friend, as we also see in one of the last stories about him. So his son Thorstein ends up inheriting his land at Borg. And Thorstein, as I said, Egill doesn't like him very much, but he does get into a dispute with a neighbor. He gets into a dispute with his neighbor named Steinar. They have a dispute about where exactly the land barrier is. Thorstein ends up killing a slave of Steinar's. Steinar sues him. They go to court. And at court, Egill is just disgusted by the proceedings, and he turns to Steinar's father, another old man. But now Egill is old. And talks to this man, Olnander, about, we got along, right? Why can't these two kids get along? We ought to settle this. Olnander agrees. They break up the court proceedings, and Egill says, we just need to name a neutral arbitrator, somebody to decide this issue for us, out of court, as it were. Olnander agrees and says, well, who could that be? And Egill says, well, I'll do it. I'll be the neutral arbitrator in this case between my son and yours. For some reason, Olnander and the other principals of the case agree to this, and Egill basically just says, well, all of your property is ours now. So it still doesn't pay to trust Egill, even if you're an enemy of a son he doesn't particularly like. Egill gets old, though, of course, as I mentioned. He ends up actually living with his foster daughter Thordis and her husband. He complains a lot about being old. He has a poem about that in chapter 88. Volsk hefk vovor helsis, vovalremek skalla, blauter erumberges fotar bor, and hlusdestorn. My head bobs wildly, like a tethered horse's. My third leg's gone soft, and my ears are dried up. And as he feels death coming on, he says to his foster daughter Thordis, I would like to go to the Althing, the General Legal Assembly of Iceland, one more time. Could you ask your husband to take me? She says, all right, I'll ask him. And the husband says, well, find out why exactly Egill wants to go. And he says to Thordis, I want to go because I want to take these 2 treasure chests of mine that Athelstan gave me, or really my dad, but I kept, and I want to dump them all over the grounds, and I want to see those guys kill each other for that treasure. Isn't that great? She says, haha, yeah, that's great. But she advises her husband to go on to the Althing without Egill. So Egill, taking a page out of his dad's book, goes and buries the treasure out in the swamp where nobody can find it. Also kills the slaves that help him bury it. Even though he's blind, he's apparently still good enough to dispatch people. And not too long after this, he dies of sickness and is buried in a mound. Now, not long after Egill's death, Iceland converts to Christianity, so his body is dug back up, the saga says, and buried in the new churchyard. And it is said that the priest took a small hammer and hit Egill's skull, and his skull case did not break. It just got scuffed. And so this was taken as evidence that Egill did in fact have an extra hard head, very literally. All right, well, as the sun sets over the Rocky Mountains and chipmunks scurry around on these rocks, and I start calculating how much light I have left to climb back down these rocks, I will wish you all the best. I will remind you, as always, that if you enjoy these videos, I have more than 270 other videos with varying microphone and other sound quality, about all kinds of topics in Norse language, myth, and sagas. I have a Patreon page, which includes a Discord community that's been a real boon, I think, to the people participating in it. A lot of very serious students of Norse language and myth, and I pop in there when I can. And I've also translated the Poetic Edda, the main source of Norse myths, as well as the Saga of the Volsungs, with the Saga of Ragnar Lothbrok, and I have other translations forthcoming, as well as the audiobooks of the Poetic Edda and the Saga of the Volsungs, available now or shortly in the case of Volsungs. All right. Well, folks, for now, from beautiful Colorado, I'm wishing you all the best.